LA is going to head to Philadelphia. The Rams are going into the city of brotherly hate to take on a Philly team that didn't play great in the wild card round, but they are 6-point favorites and over under of 43.5. And Philly didn't exactly instill confidence in a lot of us. And I think I'm lumping me and you in, who at least thought they were going to get to an NFC championship game.
I agree with every word. Before I break down the game, you give me shit about being a Sean McVay fan. You call me a member of Tight Pants Society.
Yeah.
You want to put a quick little bit of respect on his name before we talk about this game, or no?
That was a good win against Sam Darnold.
I like it. So I'm a little bit worried that Philly will just impose their will on the ground and just eat the clock, and this won't be fun. But the Rams front seems to be getting better. What? Did Cody just put something in the chat?
No. I love how you were like, and this won't be fun. They might just run them over and it won't be fun, because I'm laughing because as an offensive lineman, it's kind of like the O-lineman's dream. But if you're watching a football team that runs it 50 times, even if they run it for 289 yards, we've now trained ourselves that if you're not throwing it, it's not fun.
Well, and also too, it's not fun if you have Rams action to watch Matthew Stafford just sit on the sideline twirling a football because he just can't see the field. And in that Eagles game at Washington, Week 16 or wherever, where Jalen Hurts gets injured, if he doesn't get injured, Jaden Daniels does not have the opportunity to produce 5 touchdowns on his own. He doesn't see the field nearly as much. But I think this Rams team representing the city of Los Angeles, right? I think Sean McVay galvanizes this team anyway, but Stafford said, we're not just playing for ourselves. Like, I'm not trying to read too much into that, but I think that gives him a little bit of juice, right? And a few years back, right? I think there are 13 members of this Rams team that won the Super Bowl. Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Sean McVay. They also have been to a couple, right? I know it wasn't Stafford, but McVay has been to 2. He lost to the Patriots. So I've been there, right? This coaching matchup, Sean McVay, Nick Sirianni, does scare me a little bit. Eagles scared me tremendously last week, tremendously. And so what I said at the beginning of the handicap, talking about them maybe just running all over LA, that very well may back me off of this, but I'm leaning Rams taking the 6 points, kind of like the Rams plus 225 on the money line. I didn't like the energy in Philadelphia, right? At one point, Brown, looking at number 11, looking at the program not a program.
AJ Brown.
Thank you. AJ Brown is
like
reading
a Bible.
I thought it was a Bible, but it was like an inspirational book of some sort. For me, I just don't love last week. Even though they covered the spread, I thought they needed to sort of play a really good football game and they didn't. So it scares me a little bit where I think the Rams come in. I thought the Rams were going to be more confident than the Vikings. They most certainly were. I think the Rams come in playing with house money. I sort of like the points here, but Philly, if they run all over them and impose their will, could totally change my opinion about their ability to go into Detroit and win the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think for Philly, they're going to beat the Rams because of Saquon Barkley. And I think the number earlier in week 12 was 255. You also haven't unleashed Jalen Hurts on the ground yet either. And that is a big luxury that Philadelphia does have to continue to complement their running game. But I think there's also a matchup in there. And you mentioned it, Jay, that it was Nick Sirianni against Sean McVay. But in reality, it's more Vic Fangio against Sean McVay, the defensive coordinator of Philly. And that's where getting up early really matters, because I think for a guy like Fangio, he's a crusty old prick who loves to coach to physicality. What do the Rams not love? The physicality, especially on the outside, forcing those receivers to block and have to fight and get into route. So I think there's opportunity for Philly. And I'll tell you this, I think there's opportunity here for Jalen Carter. I didn't look up the market for him because at times he is more of a space eater, but I do think there is opportunity with the way this Philadelphia defensive line has been playing over the man. So it's over a quarter of a sack. So all Jalen Carter has to do is get half a sack. And I know it's plus 175. I just think Philly will get up. They'll lean on the Rams, and then those D linemen will have a chance to be able to make you some money in the second half of that game.
Well, it looked like Josh Jacobs was going to take over the whole football game. And then you're like, oh yeah, Philadelphia has a unit on defense that no matter how funky this offense may be and how limited their passing game may be, that they just have that unit that is the best in football backing them up all the time. So it's an interesting game.
And Saquon is having a special year. Let's be real. Yep. You know,
you bring up physicality. Yeah. I just wanted to ask you this question. Like, who is tougher to tackle? You may say Derrick Henry, but who is tougher to tackle in the NFL than Puka Nacua? Like, for real. Like, for real. I mean, is it not every time he gets a football, he dragging he just does not go down. It's like he gets these balls with 8 yards and to the first down and 3 defenders between him. I'm blown away by this 5th round pick out of BYU. I mean, blown away too.
Now, look, I'll tell you, I think this weekend might be an interesting case study in what you just brought up, because I would go with either Saquon or Derrick Henry, and I'm comfortable with either one. So let's keep an eye on that. And next week on Gas, we'll kind of circle back on who was the slipperier out there. And if Puka Nacua ends up making, I never thought of him, so I'm not poo-pooing, because I'm not anti-wide receiver, but I'm like, wide receiver.
He's an animal. He's an absolute animal.
At one point in time, I would have put Rob Gronkowski on that list until somebody dove right at his knee, because here's another guy you could bring down.
No, great example. He's at the top of that list.